On this episode of Hot Lap, we're finally drag racing the GT500. Let's go. Well, here we are, guys, after months and months of waiting, speculating, dissecting the stats, and even bench racing the 2020 GT500. The day has finally come to put that all to the test on the street, on the road course, and yes, even the drag strip to see what the new Halo Mustang is really all about. Let's go. Oh man, guys, here we go. First time in the Shelby GT500. I'm sorry if I sound a bit dorkish, but this is a huge moment for us, right? How long have we been waiting for this? Too long. Well, here we are, and I think the only logical thing to do is floor it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I won't disclose how fast that was, but wow, that DCT, 80 milliseconds. That is insane. Let's put it in manual mode real quick. That is insane. No, it's not like grabbing gears in a manual, but it's fun in its own way. I mean, wow. As a diehard Mustang guy like myself, coming into it with some reservations, they're gone. So truth be told, guys, Ford had some really big shoes to fill coming after the 13 and 14 GT500, right? I mean, that car was just one of the baddest Mustangs through and through and of all time, and really a personal favorite of mine. But like the great Carroll Shelby always says, his favorite car is the next car, and we are currently pedal to the metal in it, baby. Now fast forward 6 years later, and that basic recipe really hasn't changed, right? Big V8, even bigger blower. However, this time displacement of that V8's down a little, 5.2 liters of Romeo-built theory, but topped off with a bigger blower this time around, 265 TVS, supplied by Eaton, which altogether is going to crank out about 100 more horsepower than the previous generation and a little less torque. But before we let all 760 eat on the track and on the drag strip, I think it's time we hop out real quick, talk about some exterior and interior notables here with the 2020 GT500. And what do you say we start up front here? Because as is tradition, most of your styling differences between generational Mustang variants can be found from that A-pillar forward. Now what you're looking at here, guys, is a menacing balance of both function and form, as the 2020 Shelby GT500 is the most aerodynamically advanced Mustang of all time. Massive openings up front swallow up and divert air in a very calculated way to reduce your front end lift, minimize drag, but at the same time feed enough fresh, cool air to all 6 of those heat exchangers to ensure the car remains happy and keeps those temperatures in check. Now, at first glance, it might not appear this way, but the GT500 is packing more than double the amount of openings here compared to the GT350. And despite that fact, there are still some minor differences between the two, namely the pre-facelift headlights, which were incorporated to make use of that structural carbon composite front end or radiator support. Now, despite those dated headlights being a minor point of contention amongst enthusiasts, I will say the symphony of front end parts looks very good and still looks very relevant despite the mid-cycle refresh. Finally, guys, we can't forget to mention this gorgeous vented hood here, complete with functional hood pins and 6 square feet of functional heat extraction, complete with your removable rain tray. Now, your front track width on the GT500 is a touch wider than the already girthy GT350, and that's mainly due to these bad boys. Check these out. Absolutely gorgeous exposed carbon fiber wheels. 20 by 11s up front, 20 by 11.5s in the rear for the track pack variant. Now, non-track pack cars do receive a squared 20 by 11 on all 4 corners. Tire size does remain consistent between the two cars, 305/30s up front, 315/30s in the rear. However, the track pack car does receive the incredibly sticky Sport Cup 2s with a compound developed specifically for the GT500. Now, I know it's easy enough to get lost in all this carbon fiber bling, right? But we can't forget about the massive 16.5-inch vented rotors hung with the 6-piston aluminum calipers from Brembo, the largest ever to be on a Mustang. Now this combination of grip and braking hardware allows this car to go from 0 to 100 miles an hour back to 0 again in 10.6 seconds. That firmly plants this thing in supercar territory, and for reference sake, if you were to start that on one end of an aircraft carrier, you would still have room to stop once you finished. Now out back, a couple of notables to talk about, mainly this GT4 inspired exposed carbon fiber wing, another track pack edition. This puppy is adjustable for basically all of the downforce on track days and makes a nice addition to the rear end. But maybe my favorite part here with the 2020 rear end are these massive and largest ever 5-inch howitzers, otherwise known as exhaust tips, which does top off the active exhaust system and allows you to sing the song of my people. Now your interior here should be pretty much familiar territory for most S550 fans out there. However, a few notables such as the unique Recaros, exposed carbon fiber dash panel, and the rear seat delete of the track pack are certainly all highlights for me. Now what's not familiar, in fact it's pretty foreign, is this gear select knob, the first of its kind ever in a Mustang. That's because this is the first Mustang ever equipped with a DCT or dual clutch transmission, and it feels awesome on the street, and it's something we will revisit more during our performance driving later on in the video. Finally guys, if you're not a fan of the soundtrack of the Supercharged 5.2, first of all, you're crazy, but you could always opt for the $3,000 tech package, which does kick in things like the 12-speaker B&O Play stereo and always fan favorites Cobra puddle lamps. Well guys, what do you say we get to the money shot here and we'll use our nifty little hood pins, open this sucker up and check it out. Hood struts, or at least hood strut, the first ever for a Mustang, and I know my fellow Mustang owners will rejoice at this addition. But alas, here it is guys in all of its glory, the heart of the beast, the 5.2 liter cross-plane crank V8 codenamed Predator. Now this is topped off with Eaton's inverted 2650 supercharger, pumping out 12 pounds of boost in stock form. Now that 5.2 is packing an aluminum block and a completely forged internal rotating assembly. Heads on the 9.5:1 compression engine are essentially revised voodoo heads from the GT350, but do feature a little bit better airflow capabilities and upgraded valve seats and springs to handle the higher heat loads that typically come along with a forced induction or supercharged application. Now this engine does redline at 7,500 RPM, but your peak horsepower comes in at only 200 RPM below that, 7,300 RPM. So this is a high revving monster here. And to help with that, Ford also upgraded things like your timing chains and also upgraded two notorious weak spots on high horsepower Coyote applications, both the crank sprocket and your oil pump gears. Last but not least, Ford does toss in an oil separator for all track pack cars, while non-track pack cars can grab one of those separately. Speaking of the track, what do you say we stop blabbering already and see what this puppy can do? So here we are guys, we're in the road course portion of the track day. I'm all suited up as you can see. It's a technical course and I'm gonna do my best out here. Just gonna have some fun. All right, here we go guys. Now the GT500, the goal was to make it better than the already great GT350 and somewhere near the Ford GT. And talking to Billy Johnson, sounds like Ford did a damn good job of that.
Let's just say that this car definitely throws down supercar levels of performance, and this will embarrass cars that cost 2, 3, 4 times as much money on a racetrack.
Ford worked tirelessly to ensure the GT500 would not fall into the straight line only stereotype of the previous model, along with other slightly more current high horsepower cars with catchy names. Now this combination of the uniquely tuned Magnum dampers, E-Pass and ABS systems were all designed to help the car feel a lot more nimble than the 4,080 pound weight of the carbon fiber equipped track pack would otherwise suggest. So our first lap is kind of like a low speed warm up lap, and then we get the green light essentially to start letting it eat. Here we go. 90, 100, 110, look for the 3 cones. Hard on the brakes. Trail brake it, squeeze on the power. Stabilizer bars on the car, 36 mils compared to 34 on the Shelby GT350. Rear bar is the same on non-track pack cars, but then the track pack variant here does get a slightly bigger rear bar, 25.5. And again, we got these sticky Sport Cup 2s on, baby. Little wide, but it's all right. Squeeze on the power. Hard stop at 3-cone. Turn in. Feel that torsion dig in, unwind, track out to our back straight. Man, even hammering these shifts, full power, the car does not get upset. It just digs in. Hard on the brakes. Wow, the clamping force is sick. Over the chicane, don't upset the car too much. Brake here. God, this car's got grip for days. Yes, this is so much fun. You know you're excited when your voice changes a few octaves. I mean, listen, I am by no means a good road course driver. Kind of like the Raptor gives you the impression that you're a really good off-road driver, this car gives you the impression that you're Billy Johnson, or at least close to it. And I think that's the thing that Ford engineers are the most proud of with this car. It just instills boatloads of confidence till you push each corner a bit further. All right, guys, we just wrapped up with the road course portion. Now we are at the strip, right? The drag strip. And as you can hear, people are getting into the car, man. This is the moment I've been waiting for ever since this drive was announced, to see what this thing is really capable of. They announced official times of the mid-3 0 to 60 time and 1070 at over 130 mile an hour. Now, DA here today in Las Vegas, we just checked, it's over 4,000 feet between the heat and the elevation. So the deck's kind of stacked against this thing from performing at that level here today, but you never know. We're gonna get in the car, we're gonna make a couple of hits and see how she performs. We understand there's a very specific launch procedure with this thing, so let's go get a breakdown and see how she does. Getting the DCT-equipped GT500 to launch at the drag strip takes everything you know about a traditional stick or torque converter car and throws it completely out the window. Now, using Ford's pre-programmed line lock and launch control procedure is absolutely mandatory to get the car off the line without incinerating the Michelin Pilot 4S tires in dramatic fashion. All right, guys, here we go. First pass. God, that feels awesome. Well, after a couple of passes, we did manage a best of 11.1 at 128 with a 1.860 foot time. So not the 1070s, but obviously, again, we talked about the adverse conditions here to say the least today, with that DA being what it was. But that's still extremely impressive for a 4,000 pound car on a Michelin Pilot 4S tire that's been idling all day long. So I'd say, given a better day, maybe take it back in the Northeast this time of year, get some of that good mine shaft air, and I'd have no doubt in my mind this thing would be 1070s, if not better. But all things considered, first time out here at the GT500 certainly is a blast. The 2020 GT500 is a lesson in excess for most Mustang fans, right? Most horsepower ever, biggest brakes ever, biggest exhaust tips ever, biggest damn snake ever. You get the point, right? Now, ultimately, all that excess does lead to the biggest price tag ever. Base price is $73K, but it quickly reaches and even eclipses the six-figure mark, and topping out at around $107K with all your chips pushed in. Is it worth it? Well, I guess that kind of depends on your current financial situation, but what I will say is all these biggest or best attributes ultimately equate to the best Mustang of all time from a performance standpoint, and it's not even close. Guys, we hope you enjoyed the video. I certainly did. We appreciate you watching. Subscribe if you dig our content. And remember, for all things Mustang, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.